2012 will always be remembered for the spectacular London Olympics and Paralympics, when extraordinary people from every part of Britain surpassed our wildest hopes and expectations to fulfil their potential. It helped to remind us all who we are and what it is that binds us together as a nation. Frank Cottrell Boyce was the writer of the unforgettable opening ceremony.
To me, what was amazing about that ceremony was that if you give people a chance, they will bring so much to the party. They were so innovative and they showed such enormous commitment for no reward because they knew what it was for. They felt that this was to reflect a nation that they belonged to. If they have a sense of belonging, a feeling that a nation is a project. It's not something that's run for just a few. It's about being included and feeling that everyone has a first shout.
We all acknowledge the realities of austerity and the common sacrifices that will have to be made to help get the country back on its feet. But it's difficult to understand why some cities and communities are shouldering massive cuts to essential funding, whilst others, often the most affluent areas, are losing far less. Liverpool residents are handing back £252 per head to government in lost grants, whilst people living somewhere like North Dorset, for example, are only being asked to hand back £2. Cuts may be necessary, but they are unfair, divisive and self-defeating. As Liverpool Mayor Joe Anderson explains, cuts undermine recovery, thwart potential and divide the nation just when we most need to be pulling together.
I believe that Liverpool has got a great future. Its business and regeneration future is really strong. What worries me is how some of the poorest and most disadvantaged people within the city are going to be helped to take advantage of that. And you know, for me, it is about trying to get long-term unemployed back into work and about trying to get our young people who aren't in education and training into work. And the government's forcing us through the public sector cuts to actually take away support from those people at the very time when we need it most.
Britain's great cities are vital to our recovery. They are where new jobs and prosperity will be created. After a long period of economic decline, the great city of Liverpool has turned the corner on the road to recovery. Guy Wallace, co-founder of one of the UK's leading law firms based in Liverpool, is spearheading efforts to bring new private investment into the city.
England can't be a one-trick pony. It can't just be London and the South East. The Prime Minister said as much in the first speech he made.
Today our economy is heavily reliant on just a few industries and a few regions, particularly London and the South East. Because an economy with such a narrow foundation for growth is, I believe, fundamentally unstable and also wasteful, because we're not making the most of all the talent that there is throughout the United Kingdom.
Guy's worries are echoed at grassroots level by those working to unlock the talent and potential of people in some of the city's most disadvantaged neighbourhoods. Les Bellman is from the pioneering Eldonian Group, a community business that has breathed new life into a once economically devastated inner city community.
We've never had things easy, and we understand that, and you have to work for things. But one of the things that we're very, very conscious of is, like, you know, with the very small amount of help, people can do amazing things. The Eldonians have lived by that and have, you know, been successful in that way for many, many years.
The Communiversity project in Croxteth provides local people with a chance to acquire the education, skills and confidence they need to get back into work and realise their potential.
Today we employ 150 people, thereabouts. We're an organisation that does diverse things. You know, we run farms, we've got libraries, sports centres, building maintenance, environmental maintenance companies. Everything we've done is sort of like looked at developing programmes, projects, opportunities that benefit communities. So it's people, if you like, doing it for themselves, in spite of, you know, sometimes a lot of barriers that are put in the way. We've been doing localism, or practicing localism, before they even invented the term, and a lot of communities, a lot of organisations similar to us are doing that around Liverpool. We're keeping the tides at bay, if you like, but it's, you know, our feeling now is, with the changes that are coming on, it's going to overwhelm us.
The community of Everton, close to Liverpool's thriving city centre, is blighted by acute levels of deprivation and ill health. For Jade Cotton, mother of 2 young sons, the local children's centre provides a vital lifeline.
This country's problems shouldn't be put on the shoulders of our kids. A child is a child, regardless of background, regardless of race, ethnicity, economic background. It shouldn't matter. All children should have the same opportunity, and I think the children's centres open them doors and give parents hope.
After a successful spell in a council-funded re-enablement centre, Steve Valiant's mother was able to return home rather than move against her wishes into a full-time costly care home.
I've no idea what people will do if this sort of facility goes, because it clearly works. It's a great idea. It's delivered well by the people who know what they're doing with clear objectives, and I just don't know what would happen, certainly in Mum's case, had we not had this facility available.
For John Flamson, Director of Partnerships and Innovation at the University of Liverpool, the greatest danger is that cuts will inevitably begin to erode people's ambition and stifle hope.
As a kid growing up in the Dingle in part of Toxteth in the 1950s and early 60s, I never envisaged that I'd ever go to university. Now I realise, looking back, what a privilege that was. Because I know that there are lots of kids in similar places across the city, in Speke, in Kensington, in Dingle, in Vauxhall, maybe who are not thinking that they'll ever get a chance to go to university. And I think that we're robbing them of something.
Mike Holmes is coach to one of Britain's brightest medal prospects for the 2016 Olympics, heptathlete Katarina Thompson-Johnson. Mike fears that even our future Olympic prospects are being jeopardised by the short-sighted way in which cuts are being imposed and targeted.
The Olympians of 2020 are actually youngsters in our club now, and it doesn't just happen overnight. It's a decade process, and without that kind of process, you're not going to get the results coming through. It's all right having the elite, but you have to bear in mind that they've had to come from somewhere, and they're coming from the young people of this city.
The real legacy of 2012 is not sports stadia and facilities. It's about how we stand together as a nation, how we nurture and encourage talent, how we help people overcome barriers and fulfill their potential. It should also be about how we face up to the challenges of austerity, but in a way that's fair for everyone.
It isn't just about the north-south divide. It is a case of the rich getting richer and the poor getting poorer. And for me, that's fundamentally wrong.
We understand in Liverpool that we have to share the pain. All Liverpool is asking is that that pain is shared equally, and that we don't have to suffer it any more or to any greater proportion than anywhere else in the country.
If you start to see major unemployment out of the public sector because of the cuts, then that depresses aggregate demand. And so the fabulous new shops and leisure facilities and hotels and restaurants that we've built will start to suffer because of an absence of demand.
At the minute, for a lot of people, they're burying their head in the sand, or they just don't realise that the impact that the changes are going to have on their lives.
I think like David Cameron, maybe should experience what it's like, because honestly he doesn't know what it's like. He hasn't got a clue. He's fine making all these cuts and changes, but he doesn't know how it's affecting the people.
When you're that low down, how much you can't deprive people of everything. You can't do that. You've got to leave people with some dignity to be able to pick themselves up. And if you take that away from them, then there's only despair left.
It's the hypocrisy of this, isn't it? You know, we're all in it together. Seems a very hollow phrase to people in the city who are facing not only the benefit cuts, but also the bedroom tax on top of that.
That inclusive spirit of the opening ceremony obviously kind of developed and blossomed during the games themselves, where we had a whole new set of incredibly gracious heroes from every social background, every ethnic background, every level of ability, and everybody felt involved in them. Suddenly we had this picture of this incredibly diverse, inclusive nation in which all these people were working together on the project, which is Britain, and what an amazing country it could be, how innovative and bold and courageous it could be. So these cuts are like spitting in the face of that spirit. They're the exact opposite. The cuts made on behalf of a retrograde, old-fashioned, uninnovative, sclerotic, antiquated view of this nation, which is going nowhere. They're cuts on behalf of a dead nation.
So let's remember the most important lesson from the Olympics, the nation that we can become when we come together.